Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to her Amazon story. I'm your host for the session. My name is Shreya Kothari and I am a recruitment manager at Amazon. I have around 13 years of experience in HR and talent acquisition roles and I'm currently leading recruitment for a few businesses within Amazon. For today's session, we have with us Lavanya Vaidyanathan, a senior operations manager with the retail business services team here at Amazon. Lavanya started her operations career in 2008 with Amazon. Since then, she has moved through various roles and seen tremendous growth in her career. She has mentored many teams during her tenure and herself taken advantage of mentorship programs at Amazon. So, before we start with the session and I hand it over to Lavanya, I would request you to familiarize yourself with this platform that we are using. On the right hand side of your screen, you will see an option for discussion panel. So just click on discussion where you can add your questions during the webinar. We will be taking them up after Lavanya's session. We sincerely encourage you to ask as many questions as possible around the speaker's career journey or Amazon or business. This session with Lavanya is especially curated for you and is aimed to provide guidance on building a successful career in operations and in Amazon. Today, she joins us to share her story, valuable insights and experiences in the dynamic field of operations. So, without further ado, let's give a warm virtual welcome to Lavanya as we delve deeper into her Amazon story and unlock a world of knowledge and inspiration. Let's start the session. I will request Lavanya to take over.
Hey, thanks Shreya, thanks everybody for joining today. A very warm welcome again to everybody. I understand it's early morning for everybody, so I hope you all had your coffee and all geared up to hear my story for the next couple of minutes. Going live, probably give me 1 second please. I hope you all are able to see my screen. Thank you, Shreya. A quick introduction about myself. Again, my name is Lavanya Vaidyanathan. I have been at Amazon for the last 13 plus years and currently I am functioning as a senior operations manager at Amazon. The business unit that I operate is called the retail business unit and we normally work with the onshore partners in terms of understanding where exactly RBS can pitch in terms of improving the operational efficiency. Without much delay, I'll probably take you guys through my Amazon story and it'll be wonderful to hear from you if you have any questions through the journey of mine. Moving on to quick introduction on my background, education. So I completed my undergraduation in 2008 in BSc Information Systems Management at MOP Vaishnav College, and I went along in terms of doing my masters in public administration. I wanted to let you all know, while I joined 2008 at Amazon, I pursued my masters after I joined Amazon. So that's about my background education. Quickly moving on to just walk you guys through on my journey at Amazon. It's a pretty long one, FYI. Passed through about 13 plus years. So I joined back in 2008 as a temp employee. Back then we were not hiring any full-time employees, so we joined as a temp employee and I got graduated to a full-time employee in 2010. And I wanted to let you all know that I went through a maternity break between 2011 and 12. Back in the days when there was no concept of working from home, Amazon basically supported me in terms of understanding the complications that I've had, and they gave me the opportunity to work from home during the entire span of my maternity. And then I joined again in 2012, and then I moved as a senior associate, and then again in 2015 as a subject matter expert. Between 2008 and 2015, I operated as a catalog specialist, to be precise. What do I mean by catalog specialist is, you guys see the Amazon website with a million different products that has been set up. So the role of a catalog specialist is basically to ensure the catalog details are accurate, and basically the customer gets whatever they see at Amazon. So that is the responsibility of a catalog specialist. Moving further, in 2016, I again got promoted as a first line manager, catalog, and in 2019 is where my journey on supply chain operations started. So I basically started handling inbound supply chain operations for about 17 plus marketplaces. In layman terms, what do I mean by inbound supply chain operations is basically we work with the warehouse associates across the world, try and understand what are the inbound defects that they encounter. So for example, there is a vendor who enrolls at Amazon and they send the units to Amazon, and while we try and receive those units at Amazon, we encounter multiple different defects, right? And the items might not scan properly, or sometimes we must have ordered for something but we must have received something else from the vendor. So these are some kind of sample defects that the warehouse associates used to encounter. So my team and I used to partner with the inbound supply chain team, basically identify the defect funnel. We used to navigate, establish solutions for these issues, and that is exactly when I started getting a taste of how supply chain looks like. And I wanted to let you all know I did not have any educational background on supply chain to start off with, neither was I equipped in terms of skill set before 2019. And this experience in 2019 actually helped me realize that I actually like supply chain a bit more than I actually realized, and that is when I moved internally again within RPS to a core supply chain operations. So my journey started with the current team that I'm operating in 2020. So I moved as again an operations manager only into the core supply chain. So my team and I basically look at the entire ordering, procurement, inventory management, starting from the start to end of supply chain for about 17 different marketplaces, along with 400 different employees across India and Romania nodes. So we have multiple different language resources as well who support us for the specific marketplaces that we operate. And recently in December 2022 is when I got promoted as a senior operations manager. And that's on my career journey. Okay, this is how my team looks like. These are my first line of directs. As I confirmed, my team basically aims to improve the efficiency of the time spent by onshore partners. So in layman terms, that there are onshore partners like brand specialists, we have vendor managers and the in-stock managers. So there are 3 different onshore partners currently. And the job of the onshore partners is to enroll vendors inside Amazon, ensure their profitability, their metrics and everything is taken care of. And lastly, we ensure that the inventory management is also taken care of, so that we manage the inventory from the vendor and ensure the relevant products that the customer needs are available to them as well. So my team and I, the job for us is to basically work with all of these 3 partners, identify the operational gaps, where exactly we can pitch in, and we basically look at onboarding these tasks, and in the meanwhile we aim to automate, eliminate over a course of say X span of time. And in terms of supply chain operations, our key goals, or say P0 metrics, revolve around in stock availability. We look at the forecast demand, we look at what kind of items are available to the customer, why is it not available to the customer, how can we make it available to the customer. So these are few things that we look at within my span. All right. What did I learn? I think my journey towards supply chain operations started only in 2020, to be precise, while I spent like a good amount of a decade back as a catalog specialist. I wanted to let you all know that supply chain is obviously a very vast topic, and multiple organizations approach the input variables very differently, right? So, I am somebody who invests a lot in continuous learning, and I have been fortunate enough to be given this opportunity where I could start from scratch in terms of building my skill set inside the supply chain operations through KNET trainings, through on-the-job trainings with my onshore partners. We had multiple bootcamp trainings. We had to go through multiple shadow sessions, KPI trainings, etc. And I'm grateful to all of my leaders and stakeholders who actually helped me understand the concept. For people who might be new to leadership principles is like the core base on how Amazon operates, right? Leadership principles are more like tenets for Amazon, to be precise. And majorly, one important tenet or one important leadership principle that we focus on is the learn and be curious. And what learn and be curious means is basically about having that passion towards continuous learning, irrespective of the level that you operate at. Okay. Turning events and major milestones. One major milestone is about my transition from catalog to supply chain. To be very honest, I was really surprised when my leaders basically encouraged me towards doing this particular transition, when I realized I have the passion towards learning supply chain operations. I wanted to let you all know the initial 6 to 7 months weren't easy enough. It knocked me out of my comfort zone. There is this fear of uncertainty. There is this fear of proving yourself from the scratch in terms of operating in the new environment. And I'm sure all of the new aspirants who would want to join Amazon might encounter the same. And I was exactly put under the same spot when I moved or switched the entire line of interest in 2020. And however, fast forwarding my journey, here I am, where I am able to establish my operations, and we are already contributing to multiple revenue related goals for Amazon. Okay, inside my day-to-day, I'm normally, or I would like to call myself as a very structured person. Like anybody else, I will start with a to-do plan. I'm somebody who takes a lot of joy in writing, in terms of putting down the list of things along with my team. My space is always filled up with my team members. One of them will always be there. My typical day revolves around connecting very regularly with my fellow leaders and teammates on metric updates, reviewing program roadmaps, writing hotly debated topics. One thing that is probably very popular at Amazon is about writing documents, 1 pages, 3 pages, 6 pages. These are basically first to gain clarity for ourselves in terms of how we would want to operate, and then align the different stakeholders and participants in terms of how we would want to move on the roadmap, or any disagreements for us to put it down on the paper and clearly come together as a team to take a very informed decision based on data. And I wind up my week on a very light note with quick team connects, coffee breaks, in terms of quick breaks with multiple different people across different teams. That's how my day-to-day looks like. Okay, Amazon mentors. One thing that I would like to emphasize to all the new aspirants is Amazon invests very heavily on mentoring people and guiding people through the different phases of their career. Okay, one very important quote that I love of what I have learned so far is, "What got you here won't get you there." What do I mean by that is, the skill set that you require to operate as an associate might not be the same skill set that you require to operate as somebody within a senior level or an operations manager or a senior operations manager, right? So your journey towards learning never ends, to be precise. And when you are a new manager inside a particular role, obviously you will look for some guidance, and that is something that Amazon puts it up front, like any other organization. So we have multiple different forums where they bring out the mentors and the mentees, not just within the retail business services, but across different organizations as well, where the senior leaders are willing to spend their time, invest their time on supporting the mentees on, it may be projects, or it may be the way you operate in the role that you are currently a part of. There are mentorships on leadership principles. There are mentorship available on mental health. So mentorship is something that is very common at Amazon. And my personal experience on Amazon mentors is I basically have multiple mentors who help me across all of these key leadership principles. Bias for action is basically in terms of how do you operate at speed without compromising the quality of the output. Dive deep is about how you are able to bring out the 5 why analysis, peel the onion, as they most commonly call it out, in terms of identifying the root cause of the problem. And the recent one is basically think big, in terms of having a very unconstrained thinking. If I am given all the resources, what is the biggest idea that I would want to bring it to the table? So these are basically some of the leadership principles that people are regularly coached and mentored on, and all of that. And I have been fortunate enough in terms of connecting with multiple leaders at Amazon. All right. One recent mentorship program that I was a part of is the Pinnacle Leadership Program, which is a diversity program. So Pinnacle program aims to develop middle management women to grow into leadership roles. So Amazon definitely believes that building skill set is not like a one-time investment. It is a continuous learning process that people will have to invest, and there will be a need for people to continuously have mentors during the course of the time and give them the visibility, so that whenever you need that help, you'll be able to find that we have these many mentors, and you can easily approach them for the specific specialization that they have at the current state. So this is a recent experience that I have had on the mentorship program, even after so many years. Navigating through success. Being a tenured Amazonian, to be very honest, I believe that all of my progress has taken place outside of my comfort zone. So I was most fascinated, or I have witnessed myself growing when I basically put myself out of the comfort space in terms of exploring new things, establishing new process, while my team and I basically get into conference rooms, break our heads in terms of setting down the processes. And I have been fortunate enough to have been moving into multiple roles within Amazon itself, and most of my growth were oriented towards new launches, new setup. I'm somebody who thrives into learning further or learning new things, and Amazon is a place where they will allow you to experiment irrespective of whether you succeed or fail, right? One of my senior leader often keeps saying that it's okay to fail, but you fail fast, right? So you realize, so the outcome is two things, right? Either you pull yourself up and you move on in terms of gathering the learnings on what went well or what did not go well, or the other thing is you have probably done the pilot and it is successful, you double down or you double click in terms of moving further towards establishing the program. So there are only two things that can happen. So that is about navigating success at Amazon. Okay, my leadership mantra is, so most people who often search for a path to success, they would want it to be easy or certain. But I wanted to break it down to all of you. It is neither. What has worked well for somebody else might not be your cup of tea. But however, I would like to share something that has worked well for me is, number one, having that passion towards continuous learning, figuring out what your strengths are, and voicing it out to your leaders in terms of where you would want to operate, how you would want to operate, and all of that. The current role that I am on has a blend of both operations and program management, and that is the kind of space that I would want to operate, is how I communicate to my leaders, based on which I am given specific opportunities, right? And I personally believe that building a very strong team to challenge the status quo is very important for a leader to be successful at Amazon, and I really take personal pride when my team is successful, which is a part of my success. Moving on, in terms of work-life balance, I personally believe in work-life harmony rather than a work-life balance. What do I mean by work-life harmony is, I have an 11-year-old daughter, I have elders at home whom I will need to take care of. I take breaks in between based on my personal needs. So I am able to lead a harmonious work-life balance instead of forcing myself to say that, hey, I need to operate between the stipulated time from morning to evening. So that is my personal break strategy, to be very honest. And often my work-life balance relates to having a very quiet day at home with my kid, or going out with my friends, or eating a hot bun during a stressful day. I think it's very important for people to identify their own break strategy, and owing to the common recent times, it is very important for us to introspect and understand our own mental well-being and ensure we don't shy away in terms of asking for help, or in terms of voicing out when you have a heavy burnout concern to all of your leaders. But just reiterating, this needs a lot of introspection, and you need to organize yourself to understand how you are operating or having your work-life balance. Going above and beyond work, and that is my kid. I am basically an animal lover. You can find me spending a lot of time at cow shelters or goshalas, supporting them on their daily routine. During weekends or during an off day, we normally spend our times in these animal shelters. Cherished moments at Amazon, being a tenured person at Amazon, I have a couple of cherished moments. One was way back in 2018 when we received a VP level appreciation for the Buying Suppression Successful Program launch. For people who think that this is very difficult to understand what buying suppression means, when you go inside Amazon, when you don't see the buy box on Amazon for you to buy the product that you like, that's exactly the team that will basically sit on the back end, try and understand why the buy box is missing, and what are the different reasons that the buy box is missing, and how can we get them back on site for customers to buy. And this program was called out as a very successful launch when we were able to create end-to-end process around solving this particular issue. And another cherished moment at Amazon was the very recent moment when my first and second line of span, including myself, moved or attained career progression during Q4 22. And I am somebody who personally believes that a leader grows along with his or her team, and it personally gives me immense satisfaction to watch my team grow and be happily engaged in whatever they deliver. This is my first job, FYI, and this is still 13 plus years counting on, right? So how do I sustain, or how do I pull myself, or how do I keep my interest towards working at Amazon is basically towards learning what my strengths are. I personally believe that I'm most excited when I'm exploring new tasks, when I'm picking up the pen, sitting with my team inside conference rooms, jotting out workflows to clearly talk about new launches. I put myself very commonly in uncomfortable situations, and I keep challenging myself and my team to handle complex issues where we add value to RBS and widely to Amazon as well. I've really thoroughly enjoyed connecting with multiple leaders during the course of all of these new launches, and it gives me the freedom to explore on new things that I would want to learn on how Amazon operates, different fields that I do not know, and again reiterating that continuous learning is a very key aspect that I focus during my career journey so far. Develop a passion towards learning and you will never cease to grow at Amazon. I don't think when you would want to get launched at any organization, you will not be able to equip yourself 100% in terms of what the company needs, right? You will get into a particular firm, you will go through a ramp up period for you to learn multiple different things and for you to sustain and develop over a period of time. And Amazon basically encourages all of the new aspirants to keep continuously learning, irrespective of the time that you spend at Amazon. And that is the very minimal requirement that they expect. And that is my advice to all of the new aspirants. That's pretty much all about myself. I'd like to thank you all for patiently listening out to me for the last couple of minutes, and I wish you all the very best for all of your upcoming journey that you would want to pursue. Thank you. Thanks everybody. Back to you, Shreya.
Thank you so much, Lavanya. Your career journey is very inspirational, and I really loved listening to your growth story. Like especially Marshall Goldsmith's quote that really resonated with me, which was "What got you here won't get you there." As in these dynamic changing times, it's important to reinvent yourself, focus on continuous learning, and I'm super glad to see that Amazon provided brilliant opportunities for you to grow in your career. So thanks a lot. It was really inspirational. Hope all of you found this session with Lavanya insightful and have lots of questions for her. So now it's time to do a bit of coffee with Lavanya. She already started like in the call. Hope you got the coffee ready, and here are the and we'll proceed to the Q&A. So let me check what are the questions that have come in. So I'll take Sahil's question first. Lavanya, how was your experience during COVID times?
Let me break this question into two parts, right? In terms of how was my experience during COVID and how probably Amazon sustained during the COVID times as well. Because considering I'm somebody who is operating within the supply chain space, we went into a 360-degree shift, to be very honest, right? I think we were all sitting and buying sanitizers. I think we were sitting and buying household items rather than the demand for home appliances or the demand for personal computers and few other things went down. So basically the supply chain went through an overall to clearly say that the demand for certain products went up. So in terms of supply chain, Amazon has multiple different ways to operate. So we had to really sit down and clearly understand on what is going to be our strategy towards the COVID period, and that is where the team has to adapt ourselves in terms of putting together key plans towards navigating a very different situation. That's about how Amazon coped. Okay, coming back to your original question on how we survived during COVID, it was a very different experience, to be precise. The work from home concept prior to this COVID period, it was basically around you work from home based on need. There is no specific work from home to say that you will operate 2 days a week or 3 days a week and all from home, right? So we had to literally orient towards how we would want to have a healthy balance within our team. Let's put it this way. If I am at office, I want to ask a very simple question. I will just walk up to that person. It'll take 5 minutes for me to clarify, right? When I am sitting at home, I end up blocking meetings with everybody for minimal 15 to 30 minutes to say, hey, I have this question. And I saw people going through too many meetings in room, to be precise, right? So we had to literally introspect, try and understand how we would want to organize ourselves, what is important in terms of gathering everybody, what is not important. Sometimes we had to sit together and prioritize our entire needs to say these are all the important things that we need to connect for, and there are these things that it is okay to do over emails or say a chat conversation. That's pretty much how we oriented our ways of working towards during the COVID times, to be precise.
Thanks for that, Lavanya. So we have a lots of questions and I'm loving this. So the second question is from Gopi. She's asking, what are the various career options for a catalog manager?
Let me orient this question differently, right? So there are two aspects, obviously, or not even two aspects. To be very honest, in terms of career journey at Amazon, Amazon offers multiple different options depending on the skill set that each of them are able to bring it to the table. So if you want to operate as an individual contributor, there are roles related to somebody functioning as a brand specialist or a vendor manager or an in-stock manager. If you are somebody who has a specialized experience in business analytics, you can operate as a business analyst. And if you are somebody who is passionate about people management, you can pull yourself as a first line manager in terms of a manager catalog, operations manager like me, or a senior operations manager. I'd love to have a very blended role, and my role is basically somewhere in between managing people as well as setting up new programs. And that is something that I was able to voice out to my leaders, and I was openly given that kind of opportunity for me to place myself and leverage those strengths. So if you are somebody who is trying to understand and navigate through different roles, I personally believe that you need to understand your own strength and put it out to your leaders to understand the various options that the company has to offer.
Sure. Thanks, Lavanya. So some questions on your career journey through supply chain. So Nikhil is asking, what was the most difficult task you observed while entering into supply chain?
Hey Nikhil, thanks for that. I love the question because this is something that I keep telling my people too. If you remember, the first 6-7 months basically knocked me out of the park. It's very difficult for somebody who had no knowledge on supply chain, for somebody to learn something new. You start from the scratch in terms of proving yourself in a new space, right? For you to understand concepts. The first 6-7 months, I went on to reading papers all the time. I went on to reading and understanding KPIs. I went on to reading concepts. One very important thing is I just put myself out there to clearly state that I do not know and I am willing to learn, right? And that is something that they really appreciate at Amazon. And it is very different. It is very difficult. Often people do not basically come out very openly to say that you do not know and you're willing to learn, especially in supply chain. And that is something that my leadership basically encouraged. And the difficult thing is through navigating through all of this uncertainty and becoming successful at the role that you operate. So while the time you try and grab your feet on the ground, you keep learning your concepts and then being successful, that entire span of time is going to be very difficult, and people are there to support. I think we need to lean more on people, to be precise.
Perfect. Thank you. Another question from Amandeep, very interesting. So he says, I understand your managers and leaders have trusted you, trusted in your capabilities and provided the platform to showcase your talent in various roles. Would you like to name some of your upskill training and any in-house learnings that you attended? For instance, when you moved to the operations from supply chain, please let me know the challenges you experienced. So you have spoken about that, but any trainings that helped you upskill?
I can touch upon the trainings, right? Let me put it this way. We started venturing into brand specialist roles or vendor manager or stock manager roles very recently at RBS, to be precise. We had onshore support that happened way back, but we started venturing into these roles, I think from back in 2021. And all these roles are related to supply chain. And to be very honest, I basically called out the need to my training team that if I am somebody who is willing to learn, and if there are few more people who are willing to learn, there is currently no content that basically curates to say how a new hire can navigate and learn towards the supply chain process. Like, say for example, if you're getting onboarded as a brand specialist, there are certain different job leveling guidelines that you fit into, and your new hire orientation is oriented towards that. So they expect you to have a certain level of knowledge, and the new hire orientation is expected to develop on that knowledge. But for somebody who has zero or lack of knowledge in a certain specific field, we had to start from scratch in terms of developing that business acumen and then probably putting them through over a new hire orientation. That is where my team and I basically worked with the training team in terms of putting together training contents along with the onshore partners. So we have training contents related to how ordering works at Amazon, what are the key aspects and the KPIs related to ordering. What do I mean by ordering is basically around how do you identify a demand for a product and you order to the vendors. How does the current supply chain work, and where do we contribute in terms of the supply chain? What are the KPIs? It took some time for me to understand the KPIs itself, right? Across different variables. So these are basically some of the trainings that happened over a period of time. It didn't happen overnight. I wanted to tell you guys, it took me 2 years to be wherever I am, and I'm still learning.
Thanks, Lavanya. Thanks for that. I'll take one question asked by two people, Chirag and Venkat. So they are asking on what is the role of a vendor consultant. So if you want to elaborate on that, or we have Pritesh also, who is leading talent acquisition for RBS. He's on the call, so he can chime in as well. So the question is, what does a vendor consultant do? Be it German hiring or what is the role of vendor consultant?
Sure. Thank you for asking this question. I can probably attempt my version of it, and Pritesh can actually top up with his inputs. In terms of being a vendor consultant, vendor consultants are basically the first touch points to vendors. So we have the concept of paid vendor partnership, right? What do I mean by paid vendor partnership is certain vendors pay for certain services to be offered at Amazon. So when they are paying for the certain services, we are obliged to support them on the different tasks, right? So we become the first touch point for them. So we have these top vendors like Procter and Gamble, Lego, or we have Skechers, or we have these partners who continuously reach out to us for certain support in terms of catalog cleanup, or certain support in terms of understanding how do I set up deals and coupons at Amazon, how do I leverage the Prime Day event, or there's these multiple different events, how do I improve the profitability. There are these different key aspects, right, that the vendor consultant will be responsible for, and they become the first touch point for the vendors. I'll let Pritesh add more, but this is on the layman terms of how a vendor consultant operates, irrespective of whether you are a language resource or an English resource as well.
Sure. So before Pritesh goes, Megha has also asked a similar question. I just want to touch on it and Pritesh can speak. So Megha is asking which skills are necessary for vendor consultant. So maybe that would be an add-on question also.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lavanya. Thank you. I hope everybody is able to hear me. So for a vendor manager or a vendor consultant at Amazon, right, there are two most important aspects. One is the sales and the profitability. Basically, the person is responsible for working closely with the vendor to generate the sales and the profitability that is required for the brand, for those brands that are with the vendor. Now, so this vendor, the vendor consultant basically takes charge of the marketing activity. They work with the vendors very closely in terms of negotiating the purchase prices, the volumes, and the assortment of products, right? So they basically work with them very closely, and also help them understand the trends to kind of figure out what is working and what is not working. So typically that is what a vendor manager does. And from a skill set standpoint, what we need is somebody who's really good at working through problem solving. That's one of the most important skills that are required, but also some amount of experience in negotiating, some kind of background experience in either in marketing or sales or any of the other related domains, right? So that is a requirement. But the most important thing that trumps everything is the communication, right? Ability to communicate across to the vendor, help them understand help them understand the picture that we are looking at, and resolve those issues. So that requires a day-to-day communication, whether it is in the language. Usually, vendors are in different geographical locations, right? So if we are talking about a vendor brand specialist German or a vendor manager German, we are talking about somebody who is a vendor based out of that region. So depending on their preference language of choice, this person works with them on a day-to-day basis in that particular language, and the tasks will remain the same. So the vendor manager, like Lavanya mentioned, will be the same things that they will be doing, but the language of communication will differ.
Sure.
I hope that answered.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks. So there are two questions which are similar, and I'll take them together. So Nitish is asking, are we going to create purchase orders on SAP or something similar, being a vendor consultant? And Jessica is wanting to know more about brand specialists. So she's asking, could you explain the role of a brand specialist on daily basis? Also, how can one's work or effort get good visibility while working in a virtual environment?
Pritesh, I'll take the business question first, if that is all right with you.
Sure.
Yeah. So, in terms of creating purchase orders, I think in terms of the role at which you operate, it is important for us to understand concept on when we should order and when we should not order, rather. Right? To be precise, there are multiple different applications that Amazon uses in terms of creating purchase orders, and sometimes we really don't want to order. So the role or the process basically aims to understand when there is a value added need for somebody to utilize the ordering, and what is going to be a fallback mechanism if you end up in an overstock situation. So the role of a vendor consultant or the role of a brand specialist is basically to work with the vendor, communicate with the vendor in terms of defining these strategies over the course of the time, in terms of having a very profitable setup at Amazon.
Sure. Thanks, Lavanya. So quickly I'll move to the next question, which are similar on training. I'll take them together. So Vanaja is asking, I want to know about the training given to new employees by Amazon. And Nitish is asking, how can Amazon enroll in upskill training? Is there any portal, or is it mandatory for every employee?
Okay, I will not take a lot of time. Quickly touching upon Jessica's questions first, in terms of how can you explain the role of a brand specialist on a daily basis? In terms of being a brand specialist and a vendor consultant basically coexist. They work together in terms of having a vendor successful at Amazon. So basically, the vendor consultant is more like a partner to the brand specialist. Both of their job roles are very related or the same. It is basically no different to how they operate. In terms of getting visibility to a virtual environment, it actually does not matter whether anybody works virtually or is available at office in person. To be very honest, I think we are gone over that in the last 2 years, so it makes no difference to us. Moving forward, in terms of the training, how do I work with technical resources? So as I said, there are multiple different teams at Amazon where you can collaborate as a leader. At least personally, like I said, for me to be successful, I was not able to develop these solutions myself. I had to lean on to multiple different teams, including the business analyst, including the research analyst, including the technical developers from the RBS tech team. So something that we will need to double down is our ability to network, communicate within Amazon with multiple different leaders for us to be successful. Shreya, I'm not sure if I missed anything else. I'll request you to probably top it up.
That was perfect. Just the bit on trainings, on what are the trainings available, what is the portal available, and are trainings mandatory in Amazon?
Sure. Number one, I think your job description must talk very detailed in terms of what is the expectation of somebody to operate as a brand specialist or vendor consultant, right? And these are basically the relevant things that if anybody gets onboarded inside that particular role, it can be related to business advice, it can be related to selection in terms of helping the vendors grow, in terms of improving their traffic, in terms of bringing revenue to Amazon. So these are basically the day-to-day operations of somebody who will operate as a brand specialist or a vendor consultant. What are the skills that are required for somebody to be successful? There are a lot of online courses available that talks about the different KPIs to educate yourself on how does ordering work, what are the important things. Let's assume this way, okay, when an item becomes out of stock, any vendor is going to come back with multiple different reasons on why an item becomes out of stock, and we'll have to be very creative enough for us to bring the item back in stock if that particular vendor is going out of stock, right? So we will have to educate ourselves not only with concepts that are available within Amazon, and there are online materials that basically talk about supply chain as well. I think Pritesh or the recruitment team can talk about the different trainings, but these are the regular skills that you equip yourself in terms of the ordering, procurement, or in terms of educating yourself on marketing, or educating yourself on how to creatively solve to these problems. So these are basically the key requirements. KPIs relate to any out of stock situations, that an item becomes out of stock, or when you are overstocked, what are the different strategies that you work with the vendor in terms of ensuring the profitability is taken into place. Profitability is one aspect, sales and revenue is one aspect. These are probably the KPIs.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Lavanya, and thank you everyone for your questions. Quick time check, we have just 5 minutes, and we have one small section on interviewing, since we saw some questions on interviewing at Amazon. Before we move to the final section of the webinar, an important notice: we would really appreciate your feedback for the session. Hence, requesting you to fill out a survey using the link that we have shared on. Please look out for the link that Neha has shared, in the discussion panel, and we would love to hear from all of you. Now, I will go to the final, agenda of the session. And I will give an overview of the interviewing process at Amazon quickly in 4 minutes. So as Lavanya mentioned, we use our leadership principles every day at Amazon. They are crucial to discussing ideas for new projects and to deciding the best ways to solve problems. The leadership principles are one of the things that makes us peculiar, and all candidates are evaluated basis these principles. So, the best way to prepare for your interview is to consider how you have applied them in your past. Our interviews are rooted in behavioral based questions. We will always ask about past situations or challenges that you have faced, and using our principles to guide our discussion. So some examples of questions in the interview could be like, tell me about a time when you were faced with a problem that had a number of possible solutions, or the question could be, describe a time you took the lead on a project. One tip that we want to give you is respond to these behavioral questions in the STAR method, STAR method, which I will explain subsequently. The STAR method is a structured manner of responding to a behavioral based interview question. So here's what it looks like. STAR first is situation. So you have to describe the situation you were in or the task you needed to do. Give enough detail for the interviewer to understand the complexities of the situation. Second, T, which is task. Describe your goal or the task in hand. A, which is action. Describe the actions you took. Use an appropriate amount of detail. Last, R, which is the final result. So describe the outcome of your actions. Don't be shy about taking credit for what you did. What happened? How did it end? And always provide examples using data or metrics if applicable. So that's a quick overview on STAR. While answering, consider your successes and failures in relation to the leadership principle. I would like to give some final tips for great answers. First, obviously practice your answer using the STAR method. Second is ensure your answer has a beginning, middle and end. Third, prepare short descriptions of good number of situations from your career journey and be ready to answer follow-up questions in greater details. And last but not the least, specifics are key. So avoid generalizations and give a detailed account of one situation for each question you answer. So quickly went through it. We had wanted to do a Q&A session with all of you on the interviewing process also, but unfortunately we don't have that much time. So please send us those questions. You have the recruiter contact with us who are present here. So thank you so much for joining the session. Hope it was insightful. Stay connected with us on social media. Follow us on Instagram, and the link will be put up in the chat window. Hope you have filled the feedback survey link. If not, then please do fill that right away. We are eager to know if this session was useful. We will also be sharing this survey link on email. Please look at that and fill the survey. And we would love to hear your feedback about the session. Thank you so much. We are on time. Thanks everyone.